morning, everyone. I'm going to read you a quick passage of scripture. It's actually Deuteronomy 28:16 through about 46. So it's about 30 verses. These are the curses that God's people are cursed with when they don't follow God's commands. And at the end, I will explain why I feel this is so significant. You shall be cursed in the city and cursed in the field, cursed in your basket and cursed in your cask, cursed in the fruit of your body, then the fruit of your farms, the cast of your cattle, the breeds of your sheep. You shall be cursed in your going and cursed in your coming. The ever-living will send you cursing, blundering, and blame in every attempt on your hand, till you waste and rapidly perish before the evils assailing you and become desolate. These things shall pursue until you cease from the land that you go to possess. The Lord will strike you with consumption and fever and wasting and burning, and with sword and blight and jaundice, and pursue until you perish. And the skies over your head shall be brass, and the ground beneath you iron. The Lord will rain powder on your land, and dust from the skies shall fall upon you until you are a desert. The Lord will give you to defeat before your enemies. They shall meet you on a single road, but you shall fly before them by 7 roads, and be in terror of every government on earth. And your carcass shall be food to all the birds of the sky, and to the beasts of the earth, and none will drive them off. And the ever-living will inflict the ulcer of the Mitzrayim upon you, and tumors, and scurvy, and the incurable itch. And the ever-living will afflict you with madness, and blindness, and bewilderment of heart. And you shall grope for a window, as a blind man gropes in the darkness, and shall not find your way. And you shall also be wronged and robbed daily, and find no defender. You shall wed a wife, and another man lie with her. You shall build a house, but not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, and not eat of it. They shall kill your ox in your sight, but they will not allow you to eat of it. They will steal your ass before your face, and never return it. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will help you. Your sons and your daughters will be sold to foreign nations. Your eyes shall see it, and long for them every day, and possess them not. A people whom you have not known shall consume the produce of your farms and all your acquisitions, and you shall be plundered and oppressed at every time, and be maddened by the sights your eyes shall see. The ever-living will inflict you with a bad ulcer on your knees, and on your legs, which you cannot cure, from the sole of your foot to the crown. The ever-living will make you and the kings you have raised over yourselves go to a nation which neither you nor your fathers have known, and there you shall serve vile gods of wood and stone, and become a word of reproach and abuse among all the peoples where the ever-living drives you. You shall take much seed out of the field and reap little, for the locust shall destroy. You shall plant a vineyard, but not drink its wine, nor collect its grapes, for the worm shall consume them. Olive groves shall be in your fields, but you shall not refresh yourselves with oil. For the olives shall drop off. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, but shall go to slavery. The caterpillar shall seize all your trees and the fruits of your fields. The foreigner who is amongst you shall climb up above you from station to station, but you shall sink lower and lower. He shall lend to you. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. And all these curses shall come upon you, and pursue and hunt you to destruction, because you have not listened to the voice of your ever-living God, to preserve his commands and the institutions which he ordained for you, which should have been a guide and instruction to you and your posterity forever. But as you served not your ever-living God with delight and gladness of heart in your abundance of all things, therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the ever-living will send to you, in heat and raging thirst, and nakedness and want, and an iron yoke shall be put upon your neck until you perish. The ever-living will arouse against you a nation from afar, flying like an eagle from the end of the earth, a nation whose language you have not heard, a furious nation, who will not respect the presence of the old nor pity the young, and it shall devour the produce of your cattle and the produce of your fields until you are ruined, until you shall possess neither corn, nor wine, nor a calf from your cow, nor lamb from your sheep, until you are brought to ruin. And you shall be oppressed in all your villages, and your walls, towers, and fortifications, in which you trusted, shall be thrown down in the whole country. And you shall be harassed in every village of the land which your ever living God gave you. And you shall eat the fruit of your body, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom the ever loving God has given you, in the siege and distress with which your enemies shall distress you. The friend who is very clear and delightful to you shall turn his eyes evil to his brother, and to the wives of his bosom, and to the remainder of his children who are left, to give one from amongst them as food for his children, so that the rest may eat from the corpse with him in the siege and distress with which your enemies distress you in all your cities. The delicate lady who allowed not the sole of her foot to touch the earth from delicacy and refinement shall look with evil eyes upon the husband of her bosom, and her sons, and her daughters, and the newborn child that comes on her lap, and the children whom she has borne, that she may eat them in the absolute famine in secret, in the siege and distress with which your enemies shall distress you in your gates. If you do not care to practice the whole of the things of this law written in this book, and to reverence the glory of this magnificent revelation of your ever-living God. For the ever-living will make your own punishments, and the punishments of your posterity, astounding by these great inflictions and diseases, and sicknesses and prostrations, and will turn upon you all the maladies of the Mitzrites, which you feared when present with them, and they shall stick to you, besides numerous diseases and many plagues that are not written in the record of this law. The ever-living will bring them upon you until you are desolate, and are a small remnant, instead of being like the stars of the heavens for number, because you have not listened to the voice of your ever-living God. And as the ever-living was before delighting over you to benefit you, and to increase you, then the ever-living will delight to destroy, to desolate, and to bear you away from the ground which you have come to possess. And the ever-living will scatter you amongst all the peoples, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. And there you shall serve vile gods, and neither you nor your fathers knew of wood and stone. And amidst those heathens you shall have no quiet or comfort to the soles of your feet. But the ever-living will give you there a trembling heart, and languishing eyes, and a wretched spirit. And your life shall be in suspense to you in the present, and you shall tremble night and day, and have no uncertainty for your existence. In the morning you shall say, I wish it were evening, and in the evening you shall exclaim, I wish it were morning, because of the fear of your heart that terrifies you, and from foreseeing what your eyes perceive. The ever-living will also cause you to return to the Mitzrayim by the mournful way, which I have told you never to retrace or to look upon. And you will there offer to sell yourselves to your enemies as men and women slaves, and none will buy you. I read that from the Farrar Fenton Bible. I thought that was a pretty good translation, especially with this passage. Those curses describe what you're starting to see in America with the white Christians right now. So it used to be that the Anglo-Saxon and Germanic peoples were, especially with Great Britain, were very, very successful, you would say. They owned most of the globe and influenced all of the countries. The Anglo-Saxons had actually started to colonize and bring in missionaries to countries that didn't have Christianity. We started to Christianize the rest of the world. And there was a lot of dedication and devotion to the Word of God. People didn't just want to read it or just say they were Christian. They were living it. They studied it. They loved it. And now in America today and in all of Europe, you see this, it's like we're turning into third world countries. We've got third world country immigrants flooding in. We are now as white Europeans, we are now minorities in the world, which is what these curses said would happen to us. We would no longer be numbered like the stars. We'd have foreigners in our land that were taking what we worked for. So you're seeing a lot of that right now, where our wealth is being stolen. It is being stolen by our corrupt government, and it is being handed to people who didn't work for it, which is one of the curses. We're seeing a lot of the curses come about, and it is because we have moved away from this. We have moved away from obedience to God. It is a common doctrine, and it is a false doctrine that some would refer to it as the grace only doctrine, that all we have to do is say we believe in Jesus, and that's all we have to do. Like, we don't have to obey him. We don't have to live a righteous life. It is one of the most harmful things to Christianity that I have seen, and it came out of basically the 60s, and the sexual revolution is when people started really straying away from God, and starting this free-for-all, anything goes Christianity. I don't have to obey God. Nothing applies to me anymore. Jesus died so I can sin. It's the most corrupt thing that I've ever seen in my life, and it is so prevalent, and it is in these mega churches. They've turned Christians easily away from following and obeying God. And that is what the whole reason our country is falling right now. It isn't just because the communists want our country and have been subverting us for forever. We had protections when we put God first. Not very many Americans identify as Christian anymore. And of those that do identify as Christian, very few read their Bibles and obey. They don't. They think they can just live their life how they want, live the same as the world, live in the world, doing everything the world does. And then you think of that verse where it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I will heal their land. God's people are still rebelling against God. They're turning away from God and looking to preachers who give them these feel-good sermons. Preachers these days, most of them don't want to address sin. You find some who will. People need to know what sin is, and they need to know how to live a righteous life. We need to focus on living for God, giving him everything we've got. Everything we do should be unto God. But that's not how we're living. Most of Christianity is backslidden into this worldly. We need to come out of her, my people, and be ye separate, like it says in Revelations. We need to separate ourselves. And there's a whole lot of people saying, oh, we don't like this diversity, and we don't like this, or well, not diversity, division. We don't like this division that is occurring and people separating themselves. People have to separate themselves. Those who want to devote their lives to following God, they have no choice. They literally are ridiculed and bullied by fellow Christians. If I say I want to obey God and I don't want to participate in some of the worldly evil rituals. I don't want to celebrate Halloween, and I don't want to celebrate Jesus' birthday in December when his birthday isn't in December. I don't want to decorate a tree because my Bible tells me not to do so. So there's things that some people are drawing a line at and saying, I'm not going to do that. But the amount of ridicule, if you say, I want to follow God's commands, if I want to devote a day, a holy day to God and rest, and I want to observe the Sabbath, you immediately got people calling you a legalist because they don't understand legalism, and they don't understand that when you give your heart to God, you you grow a heart that wants to serve and love, and you want to live a life that honors God, and you want to devote a day to him and resting. The Sabbath is talked about so many times throughout the Bible. Old Testament, it's all the way into the New Testament. And yet so many people are like, I don't have to do that. You don't know. You don't have to. You don't have to do any of it. All of it is a personal choice, and all of it has to come from the heart. What you do in your life to honor God has to come from your heart. Otherwise, it's nothing but an empty, useless act. So I feel like I've been on this rampage lately, and I just want to start addressing and attacking some of the false doctrines. But I also recognize that there are whole large groups of people that grew up or were raised in some of these false doctrines, and you're never going to get them out of it. And they're always going to say, no, I can do what I want. Yes, you can do what you want. America is still partially free. So you do partially have a choice in how you live. But in case you haven't noticed, that's all slipping away. They're trying to force some of the most vile evils on God's people. They don't just want abortion. They want to force God's people who are opposed to it. They want to force them to pay for it. They don't just want acceptance, or they don't just want LGBTQ like toleration and acceptance. They want it to be in your face. They want to sexualize your children, and they want to force you to bow to people for their sexual perversions. So all of this stuff is being crammed down our throats constantly. They don't just want the freedom to, and everyone in the country, they didn't just want the freedom to marry who they want. They are now actively using propaganda to push people and to influence people into race mixing, because the very people who are about diversity, they don't care about diversity. They don't love the white man and the brown man and the black man and the Asians. They don't love them. They want everyone to mix and be one universal, across the board, brown mixed race. If you really care about diversity, you aren't trying to destroy the races. You're celebrating them and loving them the way they are, and not trying to force them to all mix together to create hybrid mixed race people. And that's like the thing that is just blowing my mind, is some of the stuff that's being crammed down our throats is so destructive. It is so destructive to God's beautiful people that God created and God loves, and that he said was very good. And people don't see it. So I'm hoping to use my channel here to start to try to talk about some of these issues. Some of these issues are going to get me banned. It's okay. Shut me up. I'll find my voice elsewhere. You can't shut me up, is what I'm saying. I will find a way to get the word out to people that everything, since the communists started subverting our country, starting before the 1960s and through the 1960s with the sexual revolution and the communists taking over our colleges and our schools and our Bible schools and seminaries, they have essentially turned Christians into sheep who just blindly follow whatever communist teachings they've been taught. They have castrated Christians and turned Christians into people who won't even stand up and say something about evil. Tolerance of evil is not okay. Nowhere in this Bible does it say that it's okay. We have to be vocal about it. We have to speak up, and we have to take action. We have to, it's hard to vote politicians out when the voting is rigged. We're at that point, guys. We are at that point where voting harder doesn't fix this. It is only God that fixes this. And only if we read this and we start to live this, make this your center focus, make Jesus the center of your life, and teach others to do the same. Because if God's people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, God will heal their land. Thank you for watching my Sunday morning rant. God bless you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.